SEP Fanfic Readings presents Aurelian by BittyBlueEyes. Chapter 33. The Fraudulent Treasure. Hermione felt her dream slowly start to fade away and clung to it with all that she had. She didn't know how she had been so fortunate. Perhaps it was Draco's scent wrapped around her, or the feel of his arm against her waist. But she had returned that evening to her peaceful dream of soaring through the sunset. Despite her efforts to continue her fantasy, her consciousness slowly returned, and with it, the heaviness that weighed upon her soul. She needed to wake up. The world needed her. There was revenge to take and a fight to win. She had to finish the fight to obtain the peace she dreamed of. She breathed deeply and placed her hand over Draco's. One more minute of silence and peace couldn't hurt. The moment her hand touched his, he pulled her back more tightly to his chest. She wondered if he was awake also, or if it was simply with instinct that he clung to her. Either way, it was a movement that warmed her inside and out. She'd needed him, and he'd never left her. Hermione turned her head, trying to get a glimpse of the man spooned behind her. "Don't," he whispered sleepily into her mane of curly hair. "Let's not wake yet." "When you can talk, you know it's too late," Hermione replied with a soft smile. Still, she allowed her head to lie back down on his arm. "I love you," he whispered solemnly. "I love you too," she answered. His words brought the full pain of the night back to her. He sounded as hurt and damaged as she felt. He hurt for her. It was touching and painful. She didn't want anyone to hurt. She needed a plan. It was the only way she'd be able to suppress it all. She took another deep breath and brought Draco's hand to her lips, where she placed a light kiss on his knuckles. Draco frowned deeply and lifted himself up on his elbow when Hermione sat up and faced him. The sadness in his eyes wounded her. He looked broken and lost. She knew it would be the same with all the others. Her pain had hurt them just as badly. She had to be strong for them, as well as for herself. It was with that in mind that she slid out of bed. Draco was on his feet in seconds, following from his side of the room to meet her at the door. Before she touched the handle, he pulled her into another tight embrace. "Just one more," he beseeched. Hermione wrapped his arms around his neck and held him tightly, like she would never let him go again. Draco knew that it couldn't be, though. It was with chagrin that he slowly released her and opened the door. She awkwardly stepped back and slowly started down the stairs. The house was dark and quiet as they descended the staircase together. Hermione looked around, listening for any sounds of the others. As she retied the drawstring on the pair of shorts she wore, her body felt funny. She was no longer in pain, and her head was clear, but it still felt off. Her muscles were too loose, and she felt overall disjointed. When she opened the door to the kitchen, she was not surprised to see him sitting there. She had actually anticipated his presence. "Hi," she greeted. "Hermione," Harry gasped in surprise, springing to his feet. "Harry, you should be sleeping," she admonished. "So should you," he countered. "It's only been 4 hours. What are you doing out of bed?" "It's morning, and I slept," she told him. 6 is hardly considered morning, and the more you say, the more I have to repeat back to you," she told him. Harry stopped and had the same look in his eyes as Draco, just as she knew he would. He hesitantly stepped closer to her, afraid to touch her. "How are you doing?" he asked. The ache in his chest was so great that Hermione felt it too. "I'm okay," she declared, as much to herself as to him. Seeing his apprehension, it was she that initiated the embrace. Harry buried his forehead on her shoulder. "I'm so sorry, Hermione," he told her miserably. "It's okay, Harry," she comforted him. It's time to move forward," she insisted. She felt Harry stiffen as he released her and stood tall. They had been through much together. When he realized that it was she that was giving him comfort, it hit him wrong. It was he that needed to be strong for her, not the other way around. "Are you sure you're okay?" he asked. "Yeah," she answered. She was determined to be. "So what have you been doing?" she asked, taking a seat at the table across from where Harry had been sitting. "Nothing. Just thinking," Harry replied, taking his seat again. He nodded to Draco as he took the seat next to Hermione. "Molly told us your account last night." Hermione nodded. She had hoped Molly would, since the unknown was more difficult to deal with. "Aurelian?" She stared uncertainly. "They took him out of the room just after you," Harry told her. "Ginny assures me that he'll be all right." "Did Molly tell you about the ring?" she asked apprehensively. She waited for one of them to ask her what she had been doing keeping it on her bedside table, but neither did. "She mentioned that Bellatrix saw it on the floor. When she was distracted with it, you ran," Harry relayed. Hermione was quiet. She still felt foolish for allowing such an important key to their investigation to be left in such a careless place. "It's okay, Hermione. I don't care what she took. I'm just glad you and Aurelian are okay." "Took?" Hermione asked, blinking in confusion. "She saved it, Potter," Draco said as he pulled the ring out of his pocket of his sleep pants and set it on the table. "You got it back?" Harry gaped in surprise and awe. "It's important. Whatever it is, it's important," Hermione nodded. "I don't get it," said Draco. "It's a stupid ring. I mean, I know it's a family heirloom, but in the end, it's just a ring." "It's important to her, though." "Very," Hermione stated. "You should have seen her eyes when she saw it. I've seen her furious, but this time—" She looked up at them, meeting their eyes in turn so that they might see and feel her seriousness. Her eyes were fire. Had I not taken the opportunity to flee, I am almost certain she would have forgone the questioning and killed us both on the spot. "A ring," Draco repeated in a growl. "Over a stupid ring." He angrily flicked the precious metal band in front of him and watched it spin like a top across the surface of the table. Harry reached out and grabbed it, but it slipped off the table and onto the kitchen floor. "Careful now, sir," Creature admonished gently, picking the ring off the floor. None of them had heard the house elf enter. "One doesn't want to risk damaging such a lovely piece of jewelry. Is this belonging to you, sir?" Creature asked as he presented the ring to Draco. "Yes, sorry," he grumbled. "No needing to be sorry, Mr. Malfoy. Creature was only admiring how similar it is to the wedding ring of Sir's grandmother," Creature told him. "Not just similar, it is her ring, or it was when she was living," Draco said, placing the ring on the table again. "You've seen this ring before, Creature?" Hermione asked. "Not this one, miss, but Madame Druella's wedding ring, yes," Creature answered. "I just told you, this was her wedding ring," Draco said crossly. He didn't have the patience for the loony house elf's ramblings that morning. "Begging your pardon, sir," the old elf croaked apologetically. "Creature is not meaning to be upsetting you. If Madame Druella had 2 rings, Creature is not knowing it. Forgive Creature." "Creature, are you saying that this is not Druella Black's ring?" Harry asked. The wizened house elf looked quite torn on how to answer. It is not the ring Creature had seen her wear on most occasions. No, sir. "You've seen her many times?" Hermione asked. "Of course. Madame Druella was the sister-in-law of Creature's mistress, Walburga Black. She visited frequently." "What makes you believe that this ring is not the one you saw her wearing?" Draco asked dubiously. "Well, sir, the ring here is not goblin-made, as Madame Druella's. 'Tis fine craftsmanship, certainly, but not the work of goblins. There is also the inscription, sir. It is backward. The ring says, 'Eternally yours,' while Madame Druella's bore the inscription, 'Yours eternally,'" Creature explained with apprehension. "Are you certain?" Harry pressed. "When were you able to examine the inside of the ring?" "It was many, many years ago, when Mistress's children were still young. Master Regulus was only just 11. Young Sirius Black," Creature still spoke his name with disdain, "often tormented his brother. During Master Regulus's 11th birthday celebration, young Sirius released a fanged frisbee in the dining room. 'Twas disastrous. Mistress was quite displeased with him. In the terrible destruction, Madame Druella's ring became covered in Narcissa's slice of cake." Creature spoke of the incident as though it was truly horrific. "Mistress asked Creature to clean Miss Druella's ring for her. Mistress told Creature of its great importance, and Creature handled it with great care." "And you remember it from just that?" Draco asked. "Creature would never forget such a treasure that had been entrusted to his care," the house elf said proudly. "That can't be right," Draco insisted. His anxious suspicion, however, was that the house elf, batty as he was, might be correct. "Draco," Hermione asked, "do you still have the original ring? The present ring at the manor?" "Yes," he answered, shooting to his feet. "No!" Hermione said in panic. She grabbed his wrist so that he would not be tempted to leave. "Don't go!" Draco was on edge and needed to see the ring immediately. "Perny!" he called as he sat back down. Perny appeared with a crack. She still looked a bit shaken from the evening's events. "Yes, sir?" "Listen carefully," he instructed. "I want you to go to the manor. Apparate directly into your quarters. If anyone is in the house, I want you to apparate back here immediately. If no one is there, and only if no one is there, I would like for you to go to my room and retrieve the wooden box off of my desk and bring it to me. Do you understand?" "Yes, sir." Her orders understood. The small elf disappeared. The group of 3 and the hunchback, wrinkled house elf waited anxiously for her return. It was only a minute later that she returned with a carved wooden box in her hand. "There was no one in the manor, sir." "Thank you, Perny." "You may go," Draco said as he placed the box on the table. He removed the lid immediately. The inside was, as always, neatly arranged. A half stick of gold sealing wax, along with the seal bearing the Malfoy family crest, lay sideways in the bottom right corner. There was an antique letter opener with a serpent handle above that. The upper right corner was where he kept his silver cufflinks that bore the constellation for which he was named, a gift from his mother. There was his favorite chocolate frog card, his prized Roderick Plumpton Quidditch card, his best quill, his favorite cologne, and in the top left corner, upon a black velvet pillow, was the ring. Forcing his hands to remain steady, he removed the ring from the box. "Yes, sir," said Creature confidently. "That is the ring of Madame Joella." "Yours eternally," Draco read aloud, his brows furrowed in confusion and frustration. "I don't understand. It doesn't make any sense." "I don't know. I think it might," Hermione said in a distant voice. Her mind worked through the facts again, and Draco and Harry waited as patiently as they could. "This could explain it," she said slowly. "I saw her reaction last night when she believed that I had the ring, but I saw her in the Pensieve also. She laughed in the Pensieve when she saw me with it. She threw it into the woods. The way she looked last night, she would never cast it away like she did, no matter who had owned it." "You think she knew that it was a fake?" Harry asked. "In the Pensieve, I mean." "I think so, yes," said Hermione, still putting her theories together. I don't know, but I think she made it herself." "What?" Draco asked in surprise. He couldn't understand how they all had the same facts, but she had somehow come to a conclusion he might never have considered. "Just follow me for a moment," she said slowly as she pieced her thoughts in the best order she could. "For whatever reason, this ring means more to her than we can understand. She wants it more than we can comprehend. We know that at this present time she does not have it, but she might in the future. Why else would she laugh and discard the one that I had unless she knew? And how else would she know? At some point in that future timeline, between now and that time, I ended up with the fake ring, rather than the original. The time that stands out to me is the first week of September." "The night I'm supposed to be attacked?" Draco asked. "Yes, exactly. We know now that Bellatrix had already been resurrected or reborn or whatever. You were attacked. There was blood on your wall, and your room was trashed. But other than a cut on your arm, you were unharmed. To be quite frank, it's baffled me why she hadn't just killed you. She had no reservations in killing your mother and trying to kill you later on. I thought, perhaps, that she just wanted to frighten you, but that's a lot of work just to get a scare out of you." "You think that's when she stole the ring?" Harry asked. "Replaced," Hermione corrected. "She replaced it. She didn't want it known that she took possession of it. It would be a further laugh to her knowing that Draco still believed that he had it." Draco's nostrils were flaring in suppressed rage. He didn't like being made a fool of, but what bothered him most of all is he would never reveal. It angered him that in that future he had married Hermione with a fake treasure. She had been cheated. "But it's more than that, Harry," Hermione continued. Draco realized then that he was too occupied with the wrong thoughts. He needed to be listening. "I think we found the answer to our Horcrux mystery." "The ring?" Harry asked. As Hermione nodded, Harry continued. Pansy was murdered that night, and Bellatrix obtained the ring. Her first Horcrux was the necklace, an heirloom, and that ring is a treasured heirloom that she's always coveted," Draco finished. "That answers it, then. She hasn't made another Horcrux yet, but she's been waiting for the ring. And what's more, I destroyed the Horcrux book. Unless she has a photographic memory or notes stored somewhere else, she can't make another," Hermione said with a hint of a smile, or perhaps a cocky smirk tugging at the corner of her mouth. "Still, I wonder if there's more to this ring than its simply being an heirloom." Three heads snapped up in surprise as the kitchen door opened and a cream-colored dressing gown swept into the room. "I thought I heard voices," Narcissa said. She forced a smile, but it was sad and made her look worn. She had averted her eyes from them all, but Hermione knew that, had she seen them, Narcissa would look as broken as the rest. "Mother," Draco said with concern, "what are you doing up?" "I'm just getting some tea for Molly and myself. We've been awake and sharing each other's company in the sitting room. I'm surprised we didn't hear you come down," she answered. With a flick of her wand, the kettle on the stove instantly began whistling. "We came straight to the kitchen," Draco stated flatly. His concern for his mother grew. She was so soft-spoken and casual. She looked worn and tired. There was no sign of the woman who had held herself straight and proud. He had very rarely seen her so casual with anyone but him or his father, and the way she had just referred to Mrs. Weasley as Molly just topped it all off. They were allies, he realized. They were all in the same place, and his mother would not hold her condescending air among them. She respected them, and she did not want them to doubt her. Narcissa finished preparing her tray and paused. She turned around slowly, and her eyes met Hermione's. "How are you, Miss Granger?" I'm okay," Hermione said uncertainly. Many of Draco's thoughts had been running through her mind as well. She had never seen Narcissa like that, and she was trying to read her. She had been right about the look in Narcissa's eyes. She had been as affected as everyone else. She was too tired and worn to hold her regular defenses. Despite how cold she had acted in the past, she had a heart and could feel and fear the same as anyone. They weren't enemies, they were allies. "And you can call me Hermione." Narcissa nodded, and her sad smile returned. "I'd better return to Molly." "Wait, Mother," Draco stopped her. "Grandmother's ring. I need to know. Does it have any great significance?" Narcissa was obviously surprised by the random question and slowly stepped up to the table when she saw Draco's carved box and the ring in his fingers. "Well, it's been in our family for centuries, many through the name of Black alone," she answered. "It's goblin-crafted of pure platinum. The inscription, I've been told, was added by Cygnus Black the First to his wife Ella Black, née Max." "I know, but, I mean, do you know anything really significant about it?" Draco pried. "Draco, I'm afraid I don't understand what you're asking," she answered, looking at her son curiously. "There are no magical properties surrounding it, that I'm aware of. Well, with the exception that it magically fits to the finger of the wearer. It has been owned by many noble and prominent women that have married into the Black family, but other than that, I'm afraid I don't know." "All right, thanks," Draco said, staring at the ring, disheartened by the answer. Narcissa turned silently and lifted the tea tray from the counter. She was halfway to the door when she paused. "Well, just a moment," Narcissa said in thought. "I don't know what it is you're seeking. An interesting story, perhaps. I remember my mother once telling me that my grandmother had insisted that the ring once belonged to Morgana." "What?" Draco snapped around in his chair to face his mother. "I know. Ridiculous claim, isn't it?" A light melodic chuckle bubbled forth, and for the first time, Hermione saw a genuine smile on the face of Narcissa Malfoy. Ancient families love to brag of their long-held heirlooms. Some claims are truer than others. My mother never had the heart to tell my grandmother how silly that claim sounded. The ring, even being goblin-made, is much too intricate to have been made any time before the 17th century. Mother had it examined by an expert once, and he estimated that it was created about then, the early to mid-1600s. It would fetch a large sum today, but it would have been worth the entire city of London's combined annual income during the time of its creation. Draco looked far off in his thoughts, and his mother mistook it as further disappointment. "Despite having no exciting tales, it is truly a treasure, and you should feel honored to be in possession of such an heirloom. It's a piece of your history. Each of its previous owners marked a union that eventually led to your existence. Its significance is the silently recorded history of you." Draco nodded. "I know. Thank you, Mother. I am very honored." Harry waited until Narcissa's footsteps disappeared up the kitchen stairs before he finally burst. "Morgana's? The ring of Morgan Le Fay?" "Yeah," Hermione answered, nibbling the inside of her cheek in thought. "It matches the book we found. But Narcissa is right. There's no way the ring is that old. This ring was made a good 1,000 years after Morgana's death in the 6th century." "I know," said Draco, "but it can't be a coincidence. Perhaps Bellatrix was dumb enough to believe the claim." "I don't know," Hermione said despondently. "I wish I hadn't left the book on Morgan Le Fay at my house. She's probably taken it." "It's just a history book, Hermione," Draco reminded her. "I know, but it's not just that. I can't stand the thought of her walking around my home, touching my things," she said with a bitter pout. "Oh, no! My scripts on the Fidelius charm. I left them on my coffee table." "Hermione," Harry interrupted, "you dropped them off at the office yesterday, remember?" "Oh, right. Thank goodness. I don't know what I would have done if—" Hermione stopped mid-sentence and paled immediately. "Harry, my notepad. I left my notepad on the coffee table." She leapt to her feet in panic, looking frantically around the room. She had to think. She had to go retrieve it. "Hermione, you left your notepad here," Harry said gently. He was rather concerned for her. Hermione never forgot details like that. "You brought it over a few days ago with the pensive. You were taking notes as we were sifting through the memories. Are you—" "No, Harry, not that notepad. I had another. I was making my own notes. I left them on the coffee table right next to Ginny's bowl of popcorn. Merlin, if she gets her hands on—" "What was on it, Hermione?" Harry was on his feet, too. Draco and I had discussed that we need to determine how old Aurelian is so we can choose a birthday for him. I started making a timeline out of the events we knew and started filling in dates, Hermione explained. Hermione, what was on it? Harry demanded. Everything from the date of Draco's attack to the massacre of Hogwarts, Hermione answered. She looked like she might either cry or be physically ill. Summon it, Draco ordered. Hermione nodded. It wasn't an easy request. Advanced summoning spells allowed a person to summon an object directly into their hands from anywhere. Unlike simple summoning spells, one didn't have to wait for the object to travel physical distance. It simply appeared in one's hands. The spell was made easier when summoning an object that a person was well acquainted with. It was the dream of most wizards to hone enough skill to be able to summon their beloved broomsticks to their side at any time. To summon the notepad would take great concentration. Hermione closed her eyes tightly, concentrated on the warmth of the wand in her hand and the image of the notepad on her coffee table, and spoke aloud. Accio! She felt a magical tug inside herself, but the notebook did not appear. She blamed her concentration. She was too overly concerned about leaving such important information lying about. She took slow breaths to steady herself and block the world from her mind. Concentrating only on the lined paper and the way her quill had felt scratching upon it, she repeated, Accio! With strong confidence. The satisfaction that usually came with achieving her goal was skipped over as her eyes roved over the outline she had scrolled on the notepad just 2 evenings before. Draco and Harry looked on over her shoulders, their eyes scanning the words quickly. First week of September. Blaze promoted. Draco attacked. Pansy killed. April. Creevies and Parkinson's killed. Dennis Creevy goes missing. Question mark. Attack at Malfoy Manor. Narcissa killed. Around Christmas. Year? Question mark. Murders in Russia and Finland. Question mark. Mission in Slovenia. 16 November 2003. Harry's home is attacked. Ginny already had James, age unknown. Spring 2004. Azkaban destroyed. Ori, 4, 5 months old? Question mark. Teddy with Ginny and Harry. Andromeda dead? Question mark. Rabastin apprehended. 19 April 2006. Hogwarts massacre. Ori, 1.5 years? Question mark. Do you think they saw it? Harry asked. I don't know, Hermione replied, panting with worry. I mean, how do we... The 3 of them gasped when the notepad vanished suddenly from Hermione's hands. What happened? Draco exclaimed. I don't know. They found it. They read it and they just summoned it from my hands, Hermione said in horror as the realization washed over it. Summon it back, Draco ordered, unwittingly gripping her upper arm to steady with his rage and panic. Hermione swallowed hard and focused her energy the best she could. When she spoke the spell, it came out with an angry determination. Her eyes were quickly scanning again, trying to take in all the details while simultaneously trying to figure out what they could have meant to Bellatrix and the Death Eaters. Before she made it halfway down the list, the notepad of paper burst into flames. Hermione pulled her hands back quickly and reached the loose ash fall to the floor at her feet. She looked up in astonishment at Harry, who had his wand still pointed where the paper was held. Sorry, Harry apologized, stowing his wand again. I couldn't let them take it back. They found it, Hermione said miserably. They might have read the whole thing. What will it mean for them? What will it mean to us? Oh, Merlin, why did I leave it out like that? You couldn't have planned for that. If we thought they might enter your flat, you wouldn't have been there at all, Harry said, his voice as cold and angry as his eyes. What will it mean to them? Draco asked. They'll be confused. Will they figure out Aurelian is from the future? I don't know, Hermione said helplessly. Pansy might be in more danger now, Harry said. We decided she must already be planning the attack on Malfoy, and now she knows we know. She knows that Pansy was part of that plan too, even if she didn't know it before. He ran his fingers through his hair, trying to keep it all straight. She'll know that we know about the Parkinsons, and that we're trying to protect them. They're well protected, Harry, Hermione reminded him. We can warn them and put up further protection if they agree not to leave the property. The Creevies, Draco said flatly. The Creevies were listed. They were killed and Dennis went missing. They'll wonder why. Hermione looked at Harry in horror. Harry, they're not safe. If Bellatrix goes looking for answers... Wake everyone, Harry interrupted. Hermione looked at Harry in confusion. His mind was obviously moving ahead of hers. I'll be back. Hermione's hand shot out and grabbed Harry's arm as he started toward the fireplace. Where are you going? She demanded. The Ministry. We need to get the Creevies out of there, Harry said with grave determination. I'll be back as soon as I can. Wake everyone. We'll need help.